Welcome, everyone. This is Andres Restart. Hopefully, you guys can hear me clearly. Hopefully, I sound okay. Hopefully, the camera's not flickering anymore. It was flickering last stream. I was too tired to figure it out. And I think it's okay now. I see like a speck of dust, right? Hopefully, this doesn't sound annoying. There, it's gone now. Okay. There may be some very subtle cat hairs. Ruby's actually here, by the way, everyone. She's right here. She's just sitting down. Ruby, come. Let me show. Oh no, you're gonna run. Are you gonna run? Because I would have to get off the chair, and I don't want to get off the chair. All right. I'll remember that. We're good. All right. So yes, hopefully, she may come back later. She comes back later at the end, towards the end of the stream. I'll pick her up and I'll show her again. So stick around if you're here for Ruby. But yes, everyone, tonight, what we're gonna do, it's not gonna be a terribly long stream. I know on Tuesday I said I would do a longer stream, and so I will commit to this stream being longer than Tuesday's stream. But unfortunately, I forgot that I agreed to do a Zelda-centric discussion with Nintendo Prime and Joy CJ on Nintendo Prime's channel at 9. So that's a little bit under an hour and a half from now. So what I'm going to do is basically stream until right before that show. That is the plan. So last Tuesday, 2 days ago, I streamed for an hour and 17 minutes before my exhaustion got to me. I'll stream for like an hour and 28 minutes or 26 minutes, something like that. Almost an hour and a half, if not even a whole hour and a half. But tonight, what I want to kind of focus the discussion on, as the title suggests, is what the Nintendo Switch 2 launch title may be. Now, I'm in full understanding that the expectation for many is 3D Mario. But I feel the conversation should be more nuanced than that. Maybe it ends up being the case that it's 3D Mario, and if it's 3D Mario, that's a really good, exciting thing, because I'm a huge Mario fan, right? Like, when I say huge, I'm not just saying I'm a huge Mario fan. I am a huge Mario fan. Every time there's a mainline Mario game that comes out, I 100% the games, right? So I love Mario to death and then some. I replay most Mario games. Yes, Mario is in my top 3 favorite franchises. The other 2 being Zelda and Metroid. What order they may be, Zelda's probably number 1, and Metroid and Mario are always kind of battling with each other. But anyways, so I just think that there is a little bit more to this conversation. It's not just, oh, it's got to be 3D Mario. And so I'd like to dive deeper into that today and also get your thoughts as well. And so we'll do a back and forth Q&A. It doesn't have to be on the topic necessarily, but that's what I would like to focus on. Initially, this was going to maybe be a bit of a debate stream, but Brandon had to deal with some family stuff. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I forgot that I had another commitment at 9. So this is not going to be a debate stream. Maybe this is like an appetizer, and then I'll turn this same topic into a debate later. Like maybe the debate will end up being, what will be the launch title, 3D Mario or Metroid Prime 4, right? So I could see this conversation, this topic evolving, and we could maybe have another episode like this. But just as an opener before I get to the chat, so 3D Mario, right, obviously makes a lot of sense. That is one of Nintendo's most it has so much potential in terms of reaching a large audience, exciting a lot of people, appealing to a huge amount of people, and getting them to want the next big system. And typically, we get one. Sometimes there are some exceptions, but typically we get one major 3D Mario per generation, and it comes out early on within that first year, and sometimes launch title, and it really helps to propel the system. So, and I agree with that 3D Mario has to come out extremely early. And maybe it should be the day 1 launch title. We even have the CEO of Video Games Chronicle, Andy Robinson, during a podcast. This was not a report, and I want to make that distinction because it does matter, right? He has not reported that 3D Mario will be a launch title. He's simply, during a podcast, mentioned that a couple people have suggested to him or told him that 3D Mario will be the launch title. And so there's a big difference there in terms of confidence in it happening. And so, I point that out because I think there is a conversation to be had. I don't think it is necessarily 100% going to be 3D Mario, but it could be. Like, it absolutely could be, and that would be an amazing thing. Like, 3D Mario may be, by the way, this is all with the assumption Switch 2 comes out this year, right? But let's say you're not in that camp. Eventually, Switch 2 does have to come out, and so you're gonna probably wonder what would be that title, right? But assuming Switch 2 does come out this year, like Nintendo's going to want to show off 3D Mario, and I do think there's a really good chance 3D Mario will be the best-selling Nintendo game of 2024, and prop you could probably, well, Pokemon might have something to say about that because they always sell like somewhere between 10 to 20ish million. But outside of Pokemon, 3D Mario is probably going to be the best-selling Nintendo game, and may be the favorite to win Game of the Year or be a Game of the Year candidate. And so it's a very hype game, and definitely that would be a great way to showcase the system. I think this game is going to be like, we don't know. We don't have a lot of like reliable sources or rumors kind of telling us exactly what this game's going to be about yet, but I have to imagine that they're going to go in more of a big open-ish direction, or at least follow a similar framework as Mario Odyssey, because it's been made clear that when you go in the more big open direction, not necessarily open world, but like these big open-ish adventures, they tend to yield really strong sales results, right? You look at Kirby's Forgotten Land, best-selling Kirby game of all time, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And so Nintendo's seen success by going bigger with a lot of their franchises. And then you also look at Bowser's Fury, which was the extra side adventure that was included into the enhanced port or remaster of 3D World. And that was amazing, but it was literally an open world Mario game. And so it's led many people to believe that maybe Nintendo is experimenting with that kind of gameplay philosophy, and it could be a hint towards what's to come. And so with better tech in the Switch 2 and what it's going to be, there's a lot of potential for a far more detailed, a far better animated, more physics going on, more crazy mechanics, and just a more open environment with the next Mario. So I think it's going to be a big hype game, 100%. And yeah, so it's going to be a big deal. And so I can understand why maybe people would take that to mean, oh yeah, so that has to be the launch title. Like that's got to be it. But something that I think should be taken into consideration here is that while Nintendo has historically used both Zelda and Mario to launch systems before, it hasn't always been those. There are a few interesting exceptions. Some bad, some good. Some of the bad ones, like Nintendo launched like 3DS with Steel Diver. Some of you probably don't even know what that is. And there was also Face Raiders as well, which was neat, but that's all it was. It was neat. The Wii U launched with Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe and Nintendo Land. Both nice things, but none of those games are like system pushers. And I do think that kind of took away the luster from those launch windows. But Nintendo has tried to launch systems without a big Zelda or Mario before, and it hasn't worked out for them. But I'll also point out that there is actually a history of Nintendo using Metroid to launch consoles. So when the Nintendo DS launched, if I remember correctly, we had Mario 64 DS, which you could argue is a point for 3D Mario. But there was also the Metroid Prime First Hunt demo that was also included. It was, if I remember correctly, it was a pack-in game. Let me double check that though, because that was probably 2004, right? So let me see. I want to just double check that. Metroid Prime First Hunt. Okay, why am I in Google Images? Was it a launch title? Release date. No, I don't want. Yes, okay, it did come out. It was a launch. It was bundled with the Nintendo DS on launch day. So for those saying it can only be Mario, Metroid Prime First Hunt was a demo. right? But it was one of the best demos Nintendo's ever released. It's like unique content for based off what eventually became Metroid Prime Hunters, which is its own thing. It was really cool. And so that I played so much, and so that was technically a launch title, right? You had the Mario 64 DS, and you had Prime First Hunt, Metroid Prime First Hunt. But also, Metroid Dread, the best-selling Metroid game to date, launched the Nintendo Switch OLED. And so, as the thumbnail shows, right? I ultimately, I think this conversation comes down to: is it 3D Mario? Is it Metroid Prime 4? There are other considerations, and as we do this stream, we'll dig deeper into that. But I think that's where the debate is to be had here. And so, if you guys have been paying attention, we've been talking about Metroid Prime 4 a lot this week, and I do think this game's a big deal, right? And I understand a lot of people haven't played Metroid, right? Mario Odyssey sold like 25 million. Metroid Prime Remastered sold 1 million. Like, so obviously there's a huge disparity in 3D Mario fans and Metroid Prime fans right now. So people haven't even seen what Metroid Prime 4 is going to be. So I pretty much know that if I do a poll, and I'll probably do a poll towards the end of the stream anyways, but I know if I do a poll, 3D Mario is going to win. I know most people think 3D Mario is going to be a launch title because that's what people want. But Nintendo doesn't always put out Mario. Nintendo doesn't always put out Zelda. And there is a history of Metroid sometimes being used to launch systems. And so I do think there's an argument to be made that Metroid Prime 4, especially because of how big I think this game is going to be, could be the launch title. A lot of people are kind of speculating right now that Prime 4 might be a cross-gen title, which means it will come out for both Switch and Switch 2. And what's interesting about that is that Nintendo's done this before. Nintendo launched the Nintendo Wii with Twilight Princess, cross-gen between GameCube and the Wii, right? This is a Zelda game. And then we have Breath of the Wild, another big Zelda game, the biggest, that was between Wii U and Switch. And so Metroid's not as big as Zelda, right? So that should absolutely be taken into consideration here. But outside of that, it's a very similar scenario. And so that could be a cross-gen title. And I do think that's going to come out close to when Switch 2 launches. Maybe the launch title, but also totally possible just like launch-ish window, right? Even conceivably it comes out before Switch 2, and then they release the patch afterwards, but I'm hoping it comes out either day one or a little bit afterwards. And so I think Nintendo could actually launch with Metroid Prime 4 and say maybe another secondary title to kind of have more of a wider variety at launch, say maybe like a new style of Nintendo Land or Super Switch Sports, as Josie Woe pointed out in the Game Explained video we collaborated on with Jake earlier this week. That would be amazing. And I think that would be a good like 1B title, like a secondary title, and that would be complementary. And I think that would actually make sense, but only with the assumption Switch 2 comes out sooner than later, right? So let's say Switch 2 comes out maybe August or September before the holiday. I think they could launch with Metroid Prime 4 and a Switch Sports 2 or Nintendo Land day one, and then a month or maybe like 6 weeks or 8 weeks later, we see the release of 3D Mario in October as the huge holiday title. Like, so it's going to be available very early on. It's going to be the big game for the holidays still. But the interesting difference that I think will be made by doing this is that there will be more Switch 2s out and available for people to pick up and play, not just the Switch 2, but 3D Mario. So if you launch the Switch 2 with 3D Mario in September, and you're only able to get out maybe like 3 to 4 million Switch 2s in September, then there's only that many people that can play the game, that can buy the game possibly, right? And historically speaking, pretty much all consoles sell out at launch, even bad ones. So is there really any real reason to come out with 3D Mario day one if it's going to sell out regardless? I don't think so, especially if 3D Mario is still known to be coming to the system, is still being marketed heavily from day one of when the system is showcased, right? Like, I think 3D Mario is going to be marketed the moment Nintendo officially unveils Switch 2. And so if people already know 3D Mario is coming, and it's coming out really soon, and the system can sell it regardless day one, whether 3D Mario is there or not, maybe it does make sense to launch with something else to give that game more opportunity, have some variety, build that up, and then once there's enough systems out there and the kinks have been ironed out and they've really marketed it, marketed the system and 3D Mario. Then they launched 3D Mario, and it explodes, and it's the heavy holiday seller. So that's kind of like the framework for how I could see 3D Mario not being the launch title, but being the big holiday release shortly afterwards. So that's kind of my argument for Prime 4. And my initial argument for how Prime 4 could maybe be the launch title instead of 3D Mario. But this is all with the assumption that Switch 2 comes out before the holidays. If Switch 2 comes out, say, October or November, then it absolutely 100% has to be 3D Mario. Like that, it just has to be. So yeah, that would be, that's the kind of the caveat there. But I've been optimistic about Switch 2 coming out sooner than later, right? I've been predicting by the end of the summer. Summer ends September 22nd. September has been speculated to be the launch date. So, you know, if that's the case, then I can see a scenario where it's not 3D Mario. But anyways, that's my big opening rant for the stream without even talking to anyone in the chat or checking to see if I even can be heard. Hopefully I can be heard. So let's now check in with the chat. Let's see what you guys have to say. Hopefully things do look and sound good. If not, I'll adjust them now. But yeah. Pablo Lima says, yes, my friend, I can hear you. Great. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Looks like I can't see everything in the chat, which is unfortunate. But I do see we have about 110 people watching already, which is awesome. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. Likes are helpful, by the way. That does spread the stream a little bit more. So if you could do that, I would be very helpful, guys. Let's see here. Connor added me. Hi, Andres. How's it going, man? And also, you know, since we have 2 weeks before we go to February, I still hope that in this Nintendo Direct, we can get Tomodachi Life on Switch. Hey, you know, as I've said before, I think Tomodachi Life has a lot of sales potential. You know, it's not my personal cup of tea, right? So I feel like I'm not likely to make a dedicated video on Tomodachi Life unless I have a lot of compelling evidence. But I do think it's something Nintendo is going to revisit. And so maybe we see it in the next Direct. I don't know. You know, I don't want to tell you, hey, it's for sure happening. I have no idea. But I do think eventually Nintendo should revisit that game. Having hope. I'll make sure to fetch Ruby before the end of the stream. Let's see here. Rookie Lee Norton. Hey, everyone. I see that the next 3D Mario game has Switch 2's main launch game with Metroid Prime 4 coming soon after and being a cross-gen game for both Switch and Switch 2. And so, you know, if that happens, that's totally fine as well, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and complain if Switch 2 comes out September, it launches with 3D Mario, and then say October we get Metroid Prime 4. Like, I don't care. That will be fine. Like, let's say they launch Switch 2 like mid-September, right? And they launch with 3D Mario, and then late October, 6 weeks later, a month and a half, we get Metroid Prime 4, which, by the way, late October, that's my birthday. My birthday is October 29th. So I would actually be very happy with that, right? Either way is fine with me. If we get both games in launch window, I think that's an ideal scenario, no matter how it shakes. But I think it's interesting to consider how things may go about. And one of the reasons why, another reason that I didn't mention yet, at least I've mentioned it before, but not for the stream. One reason why I've kind of speculated maybe they save 3D Mario for the holiday, beyond it just being like the ideal holiday game, is because we're getting a lot of Mario games right now. Mario vs. Donkey Kong in February, Princess Peach Showtime in March. We have Paper Mario 1000 Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, both having been rated, so they're coming really soon. And so that's a lot of Mario stuff. There may be more. And we're just coming off a holiday where we had Mario Wonder in October and Mario RPG in November. And so I just kind of feel like the Mario stuff should be spread out a little bit. And that's another reason why I've been kind of leaning towards Mario being saved towards the holiday. But I also think it should be noted that there is a bit of a history of Nintendo using saving Mario games for the holiday, right? Mario Odyssey, when Switch came out, wasn't the launch title. It was nearly done, though. They could have probably made it the launch title if they wanted to, but instead they polished it throughout the year and they released it in October. And even most recently, Mario Wonder, I just mentioned, that came out October this past holiday. And so I think there's a little bit of a history there where Nintendo likes putting out Mario games in October. And I don't even think that's the only exception. I think the only examples, I think Super Mario 3D Land, or was it 3D World? I think Mario 3D World launched in October back on Wii U as well. Let me double check that release date. We fact check here. We don't just... Okay, so that one's off. Came out in November. but still holiday. 3D Land was 3D Land. That may have been like just random, but let's see. I don't remember when 3D Land released. That's the 3DS. No, not 3D World. 3D Land. Google. Why did you autocorrect? That doesn't make any sense. LAND, not WORLD. You dunce. Still November. So there's Nintendo likes to use Mario games for holidays. The holidays. Super Mario 64 DS, that was also holiday. Of course, it was also the launch title because they saved the DS for the launch time. I guess basically, do you think Switch 2 is going to be coming out November, right? Or do you kind of agree that it's coming out a couple months sooner? And so that I think that's the real sticking point. I think. But moving on here with the chat. You're hoping to join that Zelda discussion later tonight on Nintendo Prime stream. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a good time. I don't even know what we're talking about. I just know Zelda, so that just that's all I need to know. Zelda, we're good. I'm ready. Unless it's a Zelda CDI games, then I'm just probably gonna leave. It's not gonna be a Zelda CDI. Don't worry. AB James, it's interesting because I've been seeing some people doubting 3D Mario as a day one release now on social media because it already is 6 Mario Universe games in a short span. That's kind of my point. I think they should spread it out a little bit. And so, that's kind of what I've been thinking. Way Dual. 3D Mario is a great way to launch a system. I remember Mario 64 when it first came out. It was truly revolutionary. And that's a fantastic point, right? Like one interesting thing, a point for 3D Mario being the launch title instead, is that I know Nintendo's going to be extremely ambitious with this game. It's going to be one of the most ambitious Nintendo games ever made. I think the same can be said for Metroid Prime 4 as well, right? So I think you could say the same for both. But the big difference is Metroid Prime 4 has to kind of earn this sort of mainstream awareness, right? And I do think it's going to earn that. But 3D Mario already has it. And so if 3D Mario is going to be showcasing the abilities of the system, it being out early on does that, right? And similar to Mario 64 was the ideal title to showcase the abilities of the Nintendo 64. 3D platforming, 3D games. It was the ideal game to do that. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's Mario. I'm going to pay attention because it's Mario, right? People aren't going to necessarily pay attention to Samus or Metroid yet. So I think that it is definitely a strong point to consider, for sure. Connor, it has to be 3D Mario because I know Nintendo Land said what this 3D Mario game would be, and it said that it has something to do with Donkey Kong. So let me clarify something there. Nintendo Land, awesome. Love the guy. We're cool. He's putting out his own theories and speculations and speaking on rumors. He's not sharing any inside information or reporting on something he knows for a fact, right? So he makes a lot of Mario videos. He's going to hype up Mario, right? He's biased for Mario. I mean, that's fine. I'm biased for Mario, right? Like, we're on the same team, but I just want to clarify, and I'm sure he would tell you the same thing, right? Like, these are theories and rumors and speculations, predictions, and those are all well and good, but they're not factual reports, right? We don't actually know what's going to happen, right? I don't know what's going to happen. Most people don't know what's going to happen. So I just want to clarify on that. But yeah, there's a lot of, if you're a Mario fan, Nintendo Land has a lot of different types of videos to watch. A lot of fun stuff. Ricky Lee Norton. I just don't see Prime 4 being mainstream enough to be the main launch title for it. And, you may be right. This actually goes back to what I touched on a little bit earlier in the stream. A lot of people probably feel exactly as you do, because a lot of people aren't Metroid fans. And I'm not saying you're not a Metroid fan. I'm not sure. But a lot of people don't believe in Metroid. A lot of people don't. And I don't think people are going to believe in Metroid until they finally see Metroid Prime 4. I think once we see Metroid Prime 4, a lot of opinions are going to change. That's just my own personal opinion, right? I don't have, I don't know. Well, I mean, I have I have reason to be very optimistic on this game. I'll say that, but that's not like anything like hard. There's no hard details there. But as I said earlier, the biggest I don't think the launch title has to be the biggest possible, most mainstream title, because we have a history where Nintendo hasn't done that. And as I also said earlier, they're not going to sell out all the systems day one anyways. So, do you really want to put out a game that everyone's going to want and won't be able to get? You can make an argument for yes, because, well, there's a lot of demand for it. People are waiting for a way to get this game and they can't. And so, maybe there's something to that. But I also think that they may still sell out. They're probably still going to be selling out of systems come October or November when they hypothetically put out 3D Mario, if I'm correct on this speculation of Prime 4 being the launch title. And I may very well not be, right? I'm just considering options here. So it's tough. It's a tough call. Wade Duel, do you think we'll see a big new proper Mario Party with new classic styled boards and gameplay? Well, I do think we're going to get another Mario Party. The question is, when does that next Mario Party come out? I'll predict that the next Mario Party will be out by 2025 at the latest. In other words, we either do see a new Mario Party this year or they save it for 2025. I'm leaning towards it being a 2025 release. But I think that makes sense. Well, we got Super Mario Party 2018, the year after Switch came out. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Actually, now I'm just kind of curious. Let's look at just the different release years for Mario Party games and kind of see if there's any sort of pattern there that we can kind of use to maybe make us feel better about predicting when we're going to see the next one. So, okay. The initial Mario Party released 98, which was 2 years. That doesn't matter. That doesn't. And then 2 and 99. That was different. Let's fast forward to more recent times. Mario Party 9, 2012. Okay. That was for Nintendo Wii. It was like the last Wii game. All right. Mario Party 10. It was Wii U. 2015. Wii U came out way after. Star Rush on 3DS. I mean, I'm looking at it here. I don't see much patterns. But Super Mario Party did come out 2018. So, yeah, I'll stick with that. I think the next Mario Party will be available by 2025, most likely 2025. But if it comes out this year, I'm not complaining. I just don't see the space for it. AB James, yet Nintendo has only launched 3D Mario with the N64, and that's it. Well, we have Mario 64 DS for Nintendo DS, right? But that is, an enhancement, remaster or remake-ish, kind of. I gotta look into that one. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, 3DS didn't have it. Game Boy Advance, I don't even know. I have no idea what the Game Boy Advance launch titles were, actually. Game Boy Advance launch titles. Well, there's Super Mario Advance. When did that release? That was a remake. Release date. I want the release date, not random ROM hacks. March 21, 2001. And when the Game Boy Advance launch? My Game Boy Advance lore is not very strong, apparently. Game Boy, so yeah, Mario Advance was a launch title. Looks like. Yeah. So that's one example. The GameCube didn't have it. Wii didn't have it. Wii U had Super Mario Bros. U 2D Mario game. That was bad. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry. I had the sneezes. Yeah. There's a few examples, actually. I brought up 4. Now, 2D Mario, I don't think was a good idea to launch the Wii U. I think it was a bad idea, but they did do it. Risky Gumi art. Still don't get why people keep saying Metroid is niche. To hurt my feelings. Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of a relative term, right? Like, what is the meaning of niche? I'm looking at it here. Niche, a comfortable or suitable position in life or employment. That doesn't really apply here. A specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. That kind of fits. Here it is as an adjective denoting products, services, or interests that appeal to a small, specialized section of the population. So, I mean, that's a relative term. A small, specialized section of the population, right? Because, yeah, I mean, a Metroid game's still going to sell 1 to 3 million, right? And 1 to 3 million people is not a small amount of people. There's a lot of game companies that would kill to have those kinds of numbers. Metroid Dread, it is the best-selling Metroid game to date, but it's also the only full-on modern Metroid game that is released during this era, and it has sold over 3 million copies. It is the best-selling game that's ever come out of Spain, apparently. And so, that's a big deal. 3 million is no slouch. There's a lot of Nintendo IP that don't get to 3 million. Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, rarely, I mean, I don't think Xenoblade's ever gone to 3 million, right? Most Fire Emblems don't, and yet we see those franchises, which are hype, come out consistently. And so, you know, what do you want to define as niche? I think we could make the argument that Metroid is probably a bigger deal than Xenoblade and Fire Emblem. Some people will probably argue Fire Emblem, but I don't agree. We just don't, but we don't have enough of a sample size for brand new Metroid games. Metroid Prime Remastered didn't perform extremely well, but it is a remaster and it wasn't marketed well. So that's something to consider. But I also think when Prime 4 does release, it's going to elevate the series. And I just think until people see it, they're good. It's going to be hard for people to really understand just how big of a deal it is. Hey, Paul Gale, what's up, man? How you doing? Tink, Metroid Dread is not mainstream. Metroid Prime Remastered cracked 1 million within the first month. Metroid Prime 1 is my favorite game of all time, and I didn't even buy it, so maybe all sales were new. You didn't buy it? Why did you do this? No, everyone needs to buy Metroid Prime Remastered. That's all right. Yeah, if you didn't want to buy it, it's fine. But I mean, it kind of goes to the point. Not everyone's going to buy a remaster. It's that simple. Even though people should, because it's really good. I'm just scrolling through the chat here. Tink asks, you liked Federation Force? I kind of liked Federation Force. I didn't finish it. I didn't finish it because I had a new 3DS at the time, and I wanted to play through Federation Force with a friend because it was a co-op game. And every time we would play, our matches would drop. And so after several efforts, we kind of just gave up. It was fun when I played it, when it worked, but I hardly ever got to finish a mission because they would continue to drop. I wanted to play with my friend, and I didn't. So I never actually finished the game. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know. Take that for what you will. It's, I don't know. I'm not saying I dislike it, but I didn't finish it, so I can't say I love it either. I think under the right circumstances, Metroid Federation Force would have worked a lot better. Like, say if Metroid Prime Federation Force was actually made for the Wii U instead, I think it would have done better. Metroid Prime Federation Force also would do better if it was made not with a chibi art style, and also had it been made with after we know that Metroid Prime 4 is on the way. So, if Nintendo ever wants to revisit Federation Force, I actually would be down for like a remake or a highly enhanced remaster of Federation Force after Prime 4 comes out. I think that actually could be fun, but it would need like it would have to be a remake basically, because I think that art style's got to go. It's got to go. And I kind of understand why they went for for that art style. I think maybe there are some interviews that suggest otherwise, right? But just like me kind of thinking about it, I think maybe, Federation Force was them trying to sort out how to get a Metroid game to sell. So they chose a chibi art style in hopes of attracting a younger audience, a larger audience, and they created a multiplayer centric game. And typically, multiplayer centric games can appeal to a larger audience as well. And so that was I think that was maybe some of the reasoning behind why they did that. I'm sure there was more to it than that. I know Kensuke Tanabe just kind of wanted to explore the Federation Force just in the game, and so that's another reason why they created Federation Force. But in terms of some of the design choices, I think that's what they were hoping for, but it had an adverse effect, unfortunately, due to a variety of circumstances. Marvelous One Junior, what would be your most unrealistic Switch 2 game? My most unrealistic Switch 2 game. I don't know. I think anything's possible. In terms of known games, I guess the game that people would say is the most unrealistic is Grand Theft Auto 6 coming to the system with minimal issues. I think maybe some people think that's unrealistic, but I kind of don't. But I think that I don't think it's that unrealistic, just because I kind of believe that the Switch 2 is going to be a pretty big deal. So that's kind of why I think the Switch 2 is going to be able to pretty much run any AAA kind of game. The issues, it's not going to be a performance problem. I think it's going to come down to storage issues, right? Will the cartridge sizes be sizable enough and affordable enough to appease Rockstar and have them go through the efforts of making this game run well on Switch 2 or run well enough? And are there going to be hard drive issues? That I think that's going to be, if there's anything that holds back GTA 6 coming to Switch 2, it would probably be that. Hello there, Shadow. I see you in the chat. That's kind of the only thing holding it back. Outside of that, like, just for fun, like thinking of like other unrealistic games, I would love like a full-on dedicated VR option, not mandatory, right? That just fully pushes the Switch 2. Like, imagine Metroid Prime 4 having a VR mode, right? Or like Call of Duty having a VR mode. That would be cool. I'm thinking of first-person games. Oh, what about Luigi's Mansion? Luigi's Mansion 4 VR? That would be good. That would be fun. I would like that a lot. But here's one more. Here's one more idea in terms of something unrealistic-ish, but maybe will happen. I've been speculating a lot on Monolith Soft's new IP. Monolith Soft is the developer behind Xenoblade series, but also is one of Nintendo's studios that does a lot of co-development with the Zelda games, Splatoon. Like, they help out a lot. They help out across the board. They're a really good support team for a lot of different Nintendo games. But supposedly they've been hiring. The job hiring are still posted on their website for a new IP, and we haven't seen that. So I wonder if they've been kind of working on this new IP for a good while, and it's been kind of geared towards Nintendo Switch 2. And I'm kind of hoping that they go in a direction of MMO. And so the reason I feel that way is Xenoblade X actually was a very ambitious game for Monolith Soft, and it had a lot of MMO-like qualities, and they held back on it for a variety of reasons. Some of it was just design choice because they didn't think that maybe everyone would enjoy that back then, but also technical limitations. Switch 2, there'll be far less technical limitations. And so I think maybe they could kind of go in that direction, especially if they're going to go away from they're not going to go away from Xenoblade, right? But they are transitioning right now, so we might see a little bit of a break. We'll see. But it would be nice to see them to kind of maybe focus on less of a linear story and something else, right? Like something like Xenoblade X, right? But dive even deeper in that direction, more multiplayer functionality, Something I've kind of thought about. I don't know if it's a full-on MMO, right? But I kind of really love the idea of Microsoft making another RPG series that has massive open worlds that you can play online with your friends. Like in Xenoblade, you have a party of members, right? And it's like specifically Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there's 6 of you. You can control any of the characters at a time, but imagine if you only controlled one character, right? All the controls and mechanics are focused on one character and a variety of things you can do with that one character. Maybe you have blades, for example, like in Xenoblade 2. So you still can sort of switch around different characters, but just for that one character, right? And then you have a party of like 3 to 6 other people, and they are being played by other members. There are other members online, like different friends you have, and so you can actually travel in a party online exploring a massive fantasy sci-fi RPG. That would be really cool. Like that would just be, I think that would be amazing. And so maybe that's unrealistic, right? Maybe that's kind of asking too much for Nintendo Switch 2. I don't think it is though, right? Because we have already a lot of games that have a lot of there are MMOs that you can play, right? So I think the Switch 2 would have the specs to pull it off. It's just, does Nintendo have the online framework to really rely on something like that? We'll see. But yeah, that's something else that I think would be very exciting, but maybe some people would think is unrealistic. And all right, so scrolling through here. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So the chat did update. It looked like it didn't update at all, but it just wasn't loading in. There we go. Okay. I was lost for a second, but I found things. I've found my way back. Darcy, what do you believe will be the third party exclusive or a timed exclusive reveal that first reveal the first proper big Switch 2 presentation direct, if any? Maybe it's because I just can't think of anything right now. But I haven't really thought of like a brand new exclusive game like Red Steel, for example, or Mario Rabbids kind of game from Ubisoft. But I do have my eyes on Ubisoft because they do like to put something like Zombie use another example. And so maybe Ubisoft does come out with some sort of new IP to launch with Switch 2. I have no idea what they would do though. Like I feel like that's just a shot in the dark. But there is a history of Ubisoft launching a new IP. But they didn't do it for Switch, right? Well, they did, but it was in the launch year, not the launch window, right? Mario Rabbids, and it did really well. So maybe they do another, but also I could kind of see them coming out with like a collector's edition or like a deluxe version of Sparks of Hope to kind of double down on those sales, but maybe they could do both. That said, I've already kind of mentioned this a few different times, but I do kind of feel that we'll have like a Skyrim 2.0. And so when I say that, I don't mean the next Elder Scrolls game, not yet. But I'm referring to like just another third-party game that people are like, oh, whoa, that's on the Switch. Oh, that's awesome. And so I'm thinking we'll get Elden Ring announced for Switch 2. It'll include the expansion, and I'm even throwing out there that there's going to be some Zelda costumes, exactly the same way they handled it with Skyrim. Skyrim was the remastered version that was on Switch, and it had some extra Zelda costume content. So I'm basically predicting that again, but for Elden Ring, which is not Skyrim, right? Very different games, but also people will be like, oh, that's on Switch 2? That's awesome. I want that version. So that's kind of like the third party game I'm thinking, but it's not new, right? So it would still be darn cool. And I haven't played it yet, so I'd probably buy it. I would definitely buy it for Switch. If I haven't played Elden Ring by the time Switch 2 comes out and this theory is correct, I'm 100% buying it then. 100%. Wily Tiger. I just need Baldur's Gate 3 on Switch and Final Fantasy 7 Remake double pack. A double pack? Those are like... Oh, okay. I thought you were saying Baldur's Gate 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake should be packed in together. I was like, oh, aren't they like different companies? That would be quite the crossover. But you mean the different Final Fantasy 7 Remake games, because there's more than one. Gotcha. That makes more sense. Right. Remake and Rebirth. Okay. I agree, though. I think the Final Fantasy VII Remake games and Baldur's Gate 3 should come to Switch, too. I definitely agree with that. I think those are popular predictions that are not crazy or unrealistic. They're realistic. Definitely. All right, so let's put up a poll. Wait, let's not do the poll yet. We still have some time. I'm not gonna do the poll yet. I want to I want to explain something else, right? So I talked about that why 3D Mario makes sense as a launch title, and I also argued a little bit why Metroid Prime 4 would be a good alternative if they're coming out sooner. I do think Metroid Prime 4, just for the record, would be a great way to showcase Switch 2, right? Like if they have a visually enhanced version and you can see the visual differences between the games, that makes a big deal. If it indeed has online multiplayer, as some of the information we've seen seems to suggest, then, and when I say that, I mean, like, we've seen a lot of job hires from people who have a history with Call of Duty or other multiplayer shooters in some way, shape, or form. There's been a lot of those kinds of people. Then those kind of things I think could maybe be hinting at multiplayer. So if Metroid Prime 4 has multiplayer, not only are you showcasing like the visual and performance abilities of the Switch 2, but you're also showcasing online multiplayer, right? And if Switch 2 has a better online sort of infrastructure, if maybe like voice chat is more better set up in that way, those things could help to kind of appeal to a more core centric audience, and so that would be appealing to have day one with Metroid Prime 4 potentially. But that would be just one part to the overall package. I don't think Prime 4 would be the only game if Nintendo does a day one launch. I think they would do like a 2-for-1 because they've done this before many times, right? We mentioned like Steel Diver, Face Raiders, Mario Bros. U, Nintendo Land, Mario 64 DS, First Hunt. The Nintendo Wii had 3 games. They had Twilight Princess, Excite Truck, and Wii Sports. So Nintendo's definitely had a history of multiple launch titles. I know the GameCube had multiple launch titles, or at least a lot of launch window games, like all in there. So Nintendo's done this before. They didn't do it with Switch, which was unique. And maybe they follow that pattern as just one. But maybe I'm just kind of saying this because it kind of helps me feel more confident in predicting Prime 4 as a launch title, because if there's 2 different games, it makes a little bit more sense. But I've been throwing out the idea of like something like a new Nintendo Land game or like a Switch Sports, something that would be really exciting, but it's a motion control game that you play with friends and family at home. It showcases the different little fun innovations and gimmicks of the system. And I've actually been predicting that Nintendo's going to bring back Street Pass. So for those that are unaware, Street Pass was a feature on Nintendo 3DS. It was a social feature that you could just walk around with your 3DS in your backpack or purse or pocket, and it would still be on, but like sleep mode, and it would be sending out a wireless signal and communicating with other people with 3DSs that you would pass by. And so depending on the game, you could, and there was different apps and stuff that would collect data, and you could interact with them in different ways, collect things, put things together, play different games based off that, get more information. And so it was a cool thing that I really enjoyed back on 3DS. And it's kind of unfortunate that Nintendo didn't utilize this kind of technology on Switch, because just think about how many people have a Switch, right? Like, this becomes a bigger deal the more people that have the system, right? The 3DS sold like almost 80 million systems, so that's pretty good. But it wasn't like the DS that had 150, right? It's not like a Switch now that has well over 130 and counting. And so it would be neat, if we see a scenario again where there's Street Pass, but there are so many people that have the system, it's greatly taken advantage of. Like, it makes sense to actually have your Switch in your car or your backpack or whatever, or on a plane, and then you check and you're like, oh, I have some new Street Pass data. This is cool. Who did I pass by? Who did I interact with in a very subtle, passive way? And so I would like to see that come back. And I think they could have a game, maybe like a new version of Nintendo Land, that takes advantage of Street Pass features day one as well. And so I think that'd be really cool. And so if you have something like that alongside of Prime 4, those are two very, very different kinds of games that would appeal to a large audience, and both could be available early on, and people will buy them when they get the systems for years to come, so they could both maybe be evergreen. And then a month or two later, 3D Mario, huge holiday. It's just extremely successful. That's kind of like my vision, right? I hope it happens. I not just because I want Street Pass, but also I'm throwing out the idea of Nintendo Land. It doesn't have to be Nintendo Land. It doesn't have to be Switch Sports 2. Just something like that. But how cool would it be if they did have a new Nintendo Land, like Nintendo World, right? Where it's these different kinds of fun games that you play with the Joy-Cons. You can incorporate your friends and family, and it's just involving different Nintendo IP. It's such a cool thing. It's unfortunate that Nintendo Land was the launch title for the Wii U. Like, I think Nintendo Land is actually a great launch title, but it's not a good primary title. It's a good, like, secondary or tertiary title. Kind of like, it's definitely better than Face Raiders. I'll say that. Pedro, Street Pass and Miiverse. Miiverse was fun on Wii U. It was kind of like Nintendo Twitter, almost, where you could do a lot of drawings and stuff through the gamepad. There was a community there. Some cool stuff. There was even news that would sometimes break on there. It was very interesting. I don't think we're going to get Miiverse back, but I could maybe see, although with the way Twitter has gone, I actually would be happy if Nintendo kind of brought in their own, if they brought back Miiverse or something like it. But I think it's almost more realistic to just expect even better, like, social media integration. You can already post things to social media from your Switch now. I imagine they'll maybe just expand on that a little bit. So it's not the same. But it would be nice if they did bring back something like Miiverse. It would be cool. Now I think I'll do the poll. Now it's time for the poll. I think I just wanted to throw out the idea of a combo. There we go. That's how I'm gonna try and win over the poll. I know what's gonna win the poll. I just know. But prove me wrong. What will be? There's the other alternative that's not Metroid or 3D Mario, right? And so, if you guys have ideas, please share them with me in the chat below. I think it's too soon for Zelda, just for the record. Even an Ocarina of Time remake, I think, is too soon. I don't think that's happening this year, but I would love to be wrong. But also, do we really is a remake really enough for the launch title? I think they need a little bit more than that. So here we go. All right, the poll. What is... Hey, there's no Prime in the chat. Nate, do you have time to jump in? Do you have time to jump in and put out your own 2 cents on what should be the launch title? Or what will be the launch title? I know we're going to do your stream soon. What? I can't... my caps lock is on. What? Oh, you are available. All right, sick. All right, I'm going to send you a link now on Twitter. All right, I actually had invited Nate last night, but I assumed it was too short notice. Just hop in whenever you can. All right. While I try and finish this poll here, I don't know to type. I've managed to type 5 letters. What is... Because I'm also reading at the same time and wrestling with my caps lock button. What is the Switch 2 launch title? I'm going to put parenthetical S because I'm cheating here. It can be more than one. 3D Mario. Metroid Prime 4 and a Nintendo Land, or how do I don't have enough letters. Oh, if I use that symbol, that helps. Metroid Prime 4 and something fun. And Nintendo Land like. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to make this fit. Okay, well, if I just say Prime 4 as opposed to Metroid Prime 4, that gives me more space. Prime 4 and then Nintendo Land esque. Sure. It's not really well put out, but just understand when I say Nintendo Land-esque, I mean a game like that. Doesn't have to be Nintendo Land. Could be Switch Sports 2 or something fun, Wii Sport, like something fun like that. And then I'll just do it just for the no other. I'm just put other. All right, here we go. All right, so the poll is, what is the Switch 2 launch titles? 3D Mario, Prime 4, Nintendo Land-esque, right? So something like that. Other. Here we go. This is all assuming, I'm assuming that if it's Prime 4, there's something else. So, damn it, 3D Mario's winning. I knew it was going to win, but I knew it. Changed my mind. Francesco Negroni asks, months have passed since you discussed about Dark Samus return. Do you still think it could happen? Did I ever say I thought it could happen? I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, right? But I don't think it's likely, because Dark Samus is done. Like, we have interviews that say that the Dark Samus is done. Like, like Kensuke Tanabe has told us that storyline is complete. Like the phase on and all that is complete. But I do think we can have someone that can take on the mantle of Dark Samus. So I'm adding Nate into the stream. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh, hello there.
Oh, I can't hear you. Hold on.
All right. You figure that out. I'll finish this question.
I got it.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Sick. All right, cool. Guys, Nintendo Prime, we're going on his channel in a few minutes, actually, at 9 to talk Zelda. So make sure to check it out. If you haven't checked out Nintendo Prime before, you definitely should. And Nate, before I get to you, I just want to finish this question here. And so, with the return of Dark Samus, I don't see Dark Samus happening, right? Because I think that storyline is done, as we've seen in interviews. But I do kind of feel like someone's going to take on that role, right? And we know Sylux is following Samus at the end of Prime 3. We know Sylux stole a Metroid egg at the end of Federation Force, which is, I think, between Prime 3 and what will be 4. But that's not confirmed, but seems likely. So I think Sylux is going to play a vital role, and I can see Sylux taking on that role of like this kind of fellow hunter or like humanoid-ish kind of warrior that you have to fight and you have like your duels with, very much how we had duels in both Prime 2 and 3 with Dark Samus. But also I think there's going to be a new Prime Metroid, which Dark Samus is it used to be Metroid Prime, right? Metroid Prime, the initial giant monster Metroid, became Dark Samus. But I think there's going to be a new Prime Metroid, and I don't necessarily think it's going to become like another Dark Samus. I think it's just going to be a really powerful monster. But maybe it has its own intelligence. Maybe they kind of throw a curveball at us, right? But that's kind of my personal speculation on what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see necessarily Dark Samus. But anyways, Nate, I don't know if you want to have anything to add on that, but
no, I'm good.
What do you think is going to be the Nintendo Switch 2 launch title? Please trigger me.
I mean, I don't think you can be triggered. It's going to be Mario.
Damn it. Everyone's saying Mario.
I mean, it just makes sense. We haven't had one since 2017,
Sure.
And they always launch with a Zelda or Mario.
Do they always?
Well, I mean, no. You can look at Steel Diver for 3DS, but I mean...
Yeah.
I think people would say that was a bad launch title and helped lead.
Well, there was also Space Raiders.
Sure, I guess if you want to argue, that's why they totally had a price cut the system. And
Oh yeah, I
give
think it was
people
a
free games
terrible
later.
launch. I think it was a terrible launch. I mean, we agree, but something led to Nintendo making that horrendous decision, right? So if it's happened before, it can happen again.
That's your argument. I love it.
Well, I don't think my argument is Metroid Prime 4 and like maybe like a Nintendo Land or a Switch Sports 2, which I don't think would be a bad launch lineup. I think it would definitely be way better than Face Raiders and Steel Diver. We can agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely think 3D Mario makes a lot of sense, right? I'm not trying to say 3D Mario doesn't make sense. I just think that it kind of depends on when Switch 2 is coming out, right? Because the Switch 2 ends up being like a summer release, right? That's really close to all these other Mario games coming out. And I feel like they might want to space that out somewhat. And we also have a history of 3D Mario coming out around the October-November period. And on top of that, they're going to sell out of systems day one regardless, right? So, and also on top of that, regardless, they're going to be marketing 3D Mario from day one anyway. So people are going to have it on their minds. They're already going to know this thing is coming. And by the time 3D Mario would come out under this scenario of Switch 2 coming on the summer, say October or November, there's going to be more systems out there. More people are going to be able to buy 3D Mario immediately. And it's still going to be that big banger holiday title that pushes the system.
I've got
counter. That's kind of, huh? Oh, counter me.
It's
counter
easy.
Me hard.
Mario's evergreen, Metroid's not. It doesn't matter when they launch Mario. It's going to keep selling for years. It does matter when they launch Metroid because they need an audience already established. And now that's the way Metroid's been. Obviously, this could be the exception.
You're making the assumption, which is, I would say
it's based on Metroid history. Like all the sales for Metroid Dread happened in like the first 2 months.
Sure. But I think you also agree that Metroid Prime 4 has an opportunity to change that narrative.
I don't know because there's got a number in the title.
Well, so I'm not trying to get you to predict that it is going to happen. I'm just trying to get you to acknowledge that it's within the realm of reasonable possibility.
If they drop the number, yes.
Okay.
Or if they keep it in the background. You know what I mean? Like Metroid Dread, they clearly said it was Metroid 5.
Yeah.
But they didn't put 5 in the title officially.
So all right.
The numbers scare people off.
I think this is an interesting conversation because in general, I agree with you, actually. I actually agree with you. I actually want them to... I don't want them to take away the 4. I want exactly how they handle Dread. When you announce it, Metroid, it was Metroid 5, right?
Yeah.
But then the actual box art is Metroid Dread. And so I want them to do the same thing for Metroid Prime 4. When you have that debut trailer, call it Metroid Prime 4, right? And press releases, social media, hey, it's Metroid Prime 4, right? But the actual title is something else. It's very much in the same way, kind of like how we call Breath of the Wild 2, Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Like this is Metroid Prime 4 is the tentative title, and we got the actual title something else. Like I do want that for it, actually. But is it really the case that numbered games can't sell extremely well?
They tend to sell extremely well to people who've already played.
All right. So this is maybe it's not the best example. I think there might be better examples. I got to kind of think about it for a little bit. But the first one that comes to mind that is a little bit of an exception is Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 is the best-selling Pikmin game to date. And it got there really quick. We don't know what kind of legs it's going to have, but it's off to a fantastic start.
But it wasn't the first Pikmin game on Switch. But they had all 3 of the games out before.
Sure, but
don't Pikmin 3 Deluxe Pikmin 3 Deluxe was the best-selling Pikmin game of all time as well before 4 came out. So it already created Pikmin momentum on the system.
Okay. Well,
you admitted it really wasn't like the greatest example, but yeah, that was the big thing. 3 Deluxe actually was the best-selling Pikmin game until 4 came out, and that happened on Switch. So it was like one of those established IPs, already had multiple releases on the system, and then it came out. I know 1 and 2 didn't sell as well, but the point was that it already had momentum from 3 Deluxe.
They were just like extra little, like, hey, if you want to play this, you can, right?
The 3 Deluxe, I feel like people had played that, and so they already wanted 4, and then obviously we know the Switch effect added some on top.
Sure. So. I mean, we do have Metroid Dread on the system. It's a different kind of Metroid, but it is the best-selling Metroid game to date, right? So there's some similarity there, right? Prime Remaster, which is Prime 1, has already released, right? Didn't sell extremely well. Well, I mean, maybe I'm kind of undercutting a little bit. Maybe those numbers
it's
have
all
updated.
fine. It didn't do the numbers you were hoping it was going to do. I remember we debated that.
Right. But, yeah, and I ultimately think that comes down to Nintendo not marketing it, but they
also tried a different release with it.
Sure. I mean, it was clearly an experiment. So we'll see how that pans out, but in the future. But there is Metroid. Like Metroid's been made. They've made people aware of Metroid existence, and if they drop Prime 2 and 3 today, how different is a scenario compared to Pikmin 4 before its release? Like, would it really be that different? It's pretty similar. It's not exactly the same, but it is similar.
Yeah, but the game they released on its own didn't sell as well as Pikmin 3 Deluxe did. You know what I mean? Like Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I feel like was the big momentum driver to Pikmin 4. And Prime 1 Remaster didn't sell as well as Pikmin.
You want to know what I think? I mean, it's kind of hard. Again, Dread did do well, right? But it's not.
Yeah, Dread did do well, but it was obviously a different type of game. And also, again, that 5, they never called it Metroid 5 after the initial reveal. It was just flashed in the trailer, and then it was Dread, and they just advertised Metroid Dread. And I feel like that's what they have to do. They have to treat like this is a reboot. This is something you don't need to play anything before.
Sure.
Because when you put a number, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to play the hell out of it. I just don't think Metroid's never proven that it can be evergreen. It's never proven that it could be a huge seller. 3 million, by the way, is absolutely incredible, especially for Metroid. Best-selling Metroid ever for Metroid Dread. But it's still one of those, but 3D Mario is 25 million. Like, these are completely different stratospheres. And if you're thinking about a game you want to launch a system with that people are going to keep wanting to buy Switches for years, then you might want to launch one of your best foot forwards, which is an evergreen title that might keep Switch sold out for many months. I don't think Metroid Prime 4 is going to keep Switch 2 sold out.
Well,
other games could, of course. Obviously, we're not just going to launch Metroid.
But the thing is, we're not talking about Prime 4 doing it by itself. Heck, the Nintendo.
You're talking about there being a casual game to go along with it,
right? And this is just day one. There's gonna be. It's gonna be.
Yeah. They're not doing
pattern.
We're not getting a Wii U again. We're gonna get every other month.
Scenario 3D Mario is like but it's coming out very soon. Like it's not far off. Like I'm talking about like 6 to 8 weeks, right?
Well, what do you think is more likely then? If they drop Metroid, and then they drop 3D Mario 3 months later, wouldn't people just stop buying Metroid and buy Mario? I know they're completely different games. Like, you got to remember, Zelda and Mario thing worked in that first 9 months of Switch because they were 9 months apart, man. That's a pretty big gap between those two big. And I know technically the biggest game was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that released a few.
I also don't think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be on a Mario level, right? Like, in my brain, right? Like, I want this, infinite success for Metroid Prime 4, right? I want to become a 40 million seller and above. But obviously, I think we all agree that's extremely unlikely, right? But well, I do think Prime 4 is going to become the best-selling Metroid game to date, and maybe even by a sizable margin, right? It's going to change the trajectory of the Metroid series. I don't think it's going to sell 20 to 30 million copies, right?
I'm also believe Metroid Prime 4 is dropping on Switch first. So,
well, I mean, with what's going on lately, that's totally possible too, right? So, like, that's another conversation to have too. Like, what if that's what they do and Prime 4 is not a cross-gen title? I personally don't want that.
It still could be. It could just be a few months into launch, and there's a deluxe version that's in 4K, 60 FPS. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I you know how I feel on that.
I know you don't like it, but people double dip. They double dip all the time.
It's not the same.
Works for PlayStation.
I get it, but just as a gamer, right? I hate that term, but as a human being who likes playing games, right? Don't you like when a new Zelda game comes out, right? Do you play it in handheld mode, or do you make sure you have the right time? Your kids are sleeping. You can put it on the big screen television. You have no disturbances, and you can experience it in its best way possible. Like, how do you?
I don't even think about it.
Oh, okay. So I do.
Whatever's
right?
convenient. If the only way I'm going to get to play is handheld, I'll play handheld. If I get to live stream it, I'll live stream it, which is also like the worst way for me to play it because I don't even get to play it on a big screen. Or I'll play it on the big screen. Because see, here's the thing. For me to sit the kids are in bed, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that also means I'm in my basement on this TV behind me, ignoring my fiance for hours on end. I don't get like the luxury to think of gaming like that. If I did that, I wouldn't even beat in Tears of the Kingdom. Like,
yeah, you know,
I argue this is my only OLED screen in the house. Do you know how awesome Zelda looks on this screen?
I bet it looks fantastic.
It looks. I know you're still rocking that broke down Switch.
I'm still rocking my OG
your
day
duct
one
tape
Switch.
Yeah,
I'm pulling for Switch to come out sooner because I don't know if
like,
I can make it.
I don't think you understand how good Zelda looks on this screen. It is not to me a downgrade at all from playing on a big screen. So
yeah, I guess I'll say that, you know, with those reported specs of Switch 2 being an 8-inch 60 hertz LCD screen, 1080p, by the way.
Then it depends on what technology on the LCD screen, because there's some nice stuff out there.
Maybe it's like, I mean, if it's like an LCD that has a really good color range, that makes a difference between OLED and LCD.
They give me mini LED or QLED, I'm just going to be
yeah.
You don't even need OLED anymore.
That would be pretty nice, that for sure. But I guess just to my point though, right? I guess we're kind of different. I mean, I understand what you mean with the OLED. Like the OLED does deliver a really nice handheld experience.
It's really good. The only thing I will say, and this is the caveat, I'm still using the Joy-Cons, and the joysticks just aren't as good as when I grabbed the Pro controller. Like, it's fine. I got the grip, and it's good, and it's usable.
It gets the job done.
It's fine for what it is. But yeah, like I do prefer playing with the controller. I mean, I guess your point is like, hey, you get that big hyped game. What are you going to do? You're going to wait for that perfect setting? And I'm just like, dude, if I'm always waiting for that perfect setting, I might not get to play the game till like 5 days after I bought it. I'm not waiting 5 days.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess in your case, because you have all your family to deal with, I can understand where
it's about, baby. I don't have to be like in a perfect situation. I can just grab and play, baby.
And that is the beauty of the Switch. And I do understand that, right? But but for me, right, when Twilight Princess came out, the Nintendo Wii came out, right?
Yeah.
We played Wii Sports, we played Excite Truck. Those were fun. I waited till no one was in the house. I waited, and that's when. And the thing is, I was as a kid, right back then. You know, the wait for Twilight Princess felt like decades, right? Because it's all ratio based, right? Like the proportion of my life that I waited at that time was significant, and so
felt like
it was a big moment when Twilight Princess came out.
Sure. And I went to the store on launch, picked up my copy, went home, grabbed my Wii, and played by myself in my parents' basement.
Well, that was probably actually pretty nice.
That was very nice. They had a separate Wii upstairs. Nobody even knew what Wii. My parents, they didn't even care what Wii was back then. They didn't even care. Because remember, like, what's this Wii thing? They started carrying them. It was like a month later, and everyone's talking about it. And I'm like, I already beat the game. Here you go, play your Wii Sports.
Yeah. But my ultimate point is simply that, you know, I want to play the game in the best way possible. I want to get the best possible experience that's available, right? And so if Metroid Prime 4 comes out August before Switch 2 releases in, say, September, right, with 3D Mario.
You know what I just realized?
What?
I don't think I've ever played Tears of the Kingdom on the TV behind me. And this is like a baller gaming TV. I play PS5 and Xbox on it all the time. I literally do not have a Switch dock hooked up to it. This Switch dock that I just keep setting it on is hooked up to my set for streaming. I don't have any. What's wrong with me?
I don't know, man.
Here's what's going to happen. Now that we're having this conversation, I'm going to hook it up this weekend, and I'm never going to want to go back. Maybe that's the key. I haven't experienced Switch gaming on my nice TV.
So what's going to happen is you're going to do that, and then tomorrow be like, you know what? You're right. Metroid Prime 4 needs to be the launch title because we have to get the best possible experience day one.
The best possible experience day one.
Yeah,
dude. I'm not gonna say, dude. 3D Mario.
I know you're not gonna change your mind. Not immediately.
3D Mario's hype.
And listen. I have no problem with 3D Mario being a launch title. Right. I'm arguing Metroid Prime 4, but I also want 3D Mario.
Yeah,
like,
but you want
fine.
Metroid Prime 4 more.
I do want Metroid Prime 4 more. That we've been waiting longer. Metroid Prime 3 came out 2007. Metroid Prime 3 came out 2007. Metroid Prime Odyssey came out 2017. Also, we got Bowser's Fury. We got a little bit of an itch scratched there, in between in 2021. It's very different. It's very, very different. But the thing is, in terms of like my expectation of quality, I think both are going to be Game of the Year candidate games, right?
I mean, no doubt. Odyssey was a 97, and look at Prime Remaster was a 94. Like, dude, they're both going to be GOTY quality.
Totally, right?
It's Nintendo. If it wasn't Nintendo, I wouldn't be so sure. But like, these are the teams that.
Yeah.
I hope anyway. You know what? I'm gonna step back off that a bit. This is this isn't the Retro Studios that made Prime 1, 2, and 3. This is an entirely new team. They don't even have the same directors and producers there anymore. So, bro, I'm just gonna sit back and go. Come on.
You saw Paul Gale's tweet. Yeah,
the Paul Gale said phenomenal. Okay, I'm assuming he heard that from somebody.
It's worth the wait.
Yeah,
it's worth the wait.
Okay, and you know what? Phil Spencer said that Redfall was worth the wait, and it wasn't. I'm just throwing out there that internal people are never going to say the game sucks ass.
But that Phil Spencer is that's different.
Oh, that's different. Hey,
come on. How about the Xbox Era podcast, right? When they're talking about how it just looks visually amazing,
okay, and it can look visually amazing, but if the gameplay is not there, what does it matter?
Right, but do we think that we don't expect it to be bad?
I don't expect it to be bad. I don't think Nintendo would let it release if it was bad, unless they were just trying to make as much money as they can off a failed project. But
I know we're running out of time here.
Yeah, I gotta go set mine up.
But let me ask you something. I think you're aware of this point I've made repeatedly, but I just want to see if you actually like grasp it, understand it, but maybe just don't care. I've made the point in the past that Nintendo put out the development update for Metroid Prime 4. The only other times Nintendo has done that, where they put out a dedicated video announcing a delay, is for major Zelda games. The best games Nintendo puts out. And so I do think that is a hint towards the effort and their goal in terms of quality. And so, we're speaking, you're kind of putting some doubt on Retro Studios here, but it's not just Retro Studios. And then Retro Studios is a part of Nintendo first off, right? But there's Kensuke Tanabe, who's not literally a part of Retro Studios. He's a producer. Like, it is going to ultimately be a collaborative effort, right? And so my ultimate point here is that I think Nintendo has shown us signs that the kind of quality we should expect from this is the utmost highest quality to match the pedigree of the series, which is the utmost highest quality. But the Metroid Prime series is some of the highest quality games. You brought up how Metroid Prime Remastered is a 94 on Metacritic, which is good, but in a way that's almost undercutting the series, because back when they initially came out, they were rated even higher. Metroid Prime was like, I think, like a 98 or something. It's
less maybe reviewers back then too. So
sure, but the point is that the series overall is still one of the highest reviewed series.
Sure. I mean, Metroid Prime was at 88, but still up for Game of the Year.
Right, but that's also 2D Metroid, right?
Different, and that was up for Game of the Year, which is crazy.
Right. But I guess my point is that I'm pretty sure 2D Zelda reviews worse than 3D Zelda. 2D Mario reviews worse than 3D Mario. Yes. It's just a correlation there. In general, 2D games review worse than 3D. And it's not that 2D games are bad. It's just I think 2D games don't have the Game of the Year potential as 3D games have. That's a mass generalization. Yeah. But that's just kind of what the correlation is.
Yeah, no, I understand what you say about the the game delay thing possibly being an indication of quality. I also think it was one of the most unique situations in Nintendo major game history. And I think that's why they announced it, because when have they ever completely full stop development and completely changed development teams in the middle of development? Like, it just doesn't happen at Nintendo. It might happen at other studios, I don't know, but it doesn't happen at Nintendo. So I almost think there was like a really unique situation. And they know, they're not dumb. They knew that people were talking about Bandai Namco and other, working on this game and the multiple. Like, they knew these reports were out there, and they're like, "Well, everyone thinks this is happening by this studio, but in reality, we just switched to retro. we probably should address all this stuff and let people know that, hey, not only did we switch, it's going to be a while before this game comes out. So I think they were just trying to reset the expectation since they announced it in 2017 that, hey, it's going to be another 4 or 5 years because we reset who's making the game. So I don't know that it necessarily is related to quality, because at the time, how could they know what the quality was? They just reset.
Not guaranteed. That is fair. It's not guaranteed.
It's one of those. It's one of those that, like, look, the easy counter is, has Retro Studios, since Nintendo's owned them, ever put out a game that wasn't a high quality experience? And the answer is no. I literally, they've never put out a game that wasn't a high quality experience. And that's great. And I have faith that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be really, really, really damn good. But I'm always just, I like to have a little hesitation, because this particular group of developers hasn't made it before, and I want to see what happens. It's not, I'm much more confident in the Mario team, because it's the same team that did Odyssey.
Sure. No, I mean, I understand
the
that.
Exact same developers, the exact same leadership, just like the next Zelda game. It's the exact same developers, the exact same producer and director, like, and nothing's changed. So, like, it's going to be just probably as good as the prior games. Doesn't always happen, by the way, but anyways, yeah, that's sort of why. We'll see. Here's the thing. I'm with you. I'm hyped for Metroid Prime 4. I know it seems like I'm like a Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to be.
Well, we're having a conversation. We're considering options,
I'm
right?
hesitant. Like, look, here's what happens. The trailer is going to drop next month, I hope. If not, whatever, this summer. And I'm going to be freaking out. I don't think there's any way they could show me a trailer that wouldn't have me freaking out. It would have to be like something egregious in the gameplay that I'm like, oh, wait a second. That wasn't good.
But also, I mean, I think you're a fairly open-minded person, right? Like, there are games that come out that are amazing, but they don't necessarily happen exactly how we intend, right? Like, you and I love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but we're also Zelda purists, right? Like, or we were. Like, we love the prior Zelda games, but these are different, but we still love them, if not more so. And so, you know, Metroid Prime 4 may come out, and there may be some things in there that we're like, whoa, that's different. But we're not gonna be like, oh, that's different. Oh, we're not gonna try it. We're gonna pay attention and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm okay if it ends up being 3D Mario, right?
Yeah.
I think what ultimately, you know, what the conversations and everything seems to be suggesting right now is that we might be getting both this year.
Hopefully we just know in 2 months. Just reveal the Switch in March and let us know.
You know what? I don't think we're going to know in 2 months.
Yeah.
We might know that we're getting both games this year in 2 months, but I don't think we're going to know which one's coming first in 2 months.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, we might not even know about Switch 2 yet in 2 months. Like, we have no idea.
Yeah. That's
what Nintendo's doing.
Oh, well, I was thinking 2 months is April. 2 months is still March. So
March.
That's true. That's true.
All right. I have to head to get my show ready, so.
And I'm gonna end this one. I've set it up so people are gonna actually like.
Oh, it's gonna like zoom them over.
In. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, that's Nintendo Prime, guys. We're actually gonna do a Zelda cast on his channel in a few minutes. So, you know, we're not done talking Nintendo today. We're gonna move over to his channel in a couple of minutes. Yeah.
All right.
See you in a couple of minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So. All right, I'll just take the L, guys. I'm gonna end the poll. For the record, I said multiple times I knew 3D Mario was going to win the poll. I knew. There was no doubt. And it wasn't close. It wasn't even close. But, you know, it's not like no one kind of thinks that it could be Prime 4, right? But, you know, it's definitely sizable, right? Like, so we had 121 votes. 3D Mario has over 60% of the vote. Prime 4 plus like a Nintendo Land-esque kind of game accounts for about 30%, and then the other 10-ish% is other. So I said to explain in chat. So let's look for the chat here for a couple minutes. Guys, if there's any comments or super chats you want to put in now while I wrap things up, do it now so I can try and get to it before we close things out and move on to Nate's stream in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm going to try and speed through here and get to a few more chats. Guy you don't know, Adamy. Honestly, I wouldn't believe that Metroid Prime 4 is phenomenal based on the word of one guy on the internet, regardless of how well you know him. Temper your expectations, my friend. Well, it isn't based on just based on the word of one guy on the internet. there is more to it than that, right? That is just one thing. It's kind of like what is it, the straw of hay that broke the, I don't know, what, the needle that broke. Okay, I'm trying to throw needle into the haystack, but that's not what it is. It's the straw of hay that broke the camel's back or something. Point is, this little rumor is just a drop in the bucket, right? Like, there's so many reasons why I have such a high expectation for Metroid Prime 4. That's just a little rumor, right? We've had other rumors from other places that are considered reliable, like the Xbox Era podcast has said some very, very positive things on Metroid Prime 4. I was just talking about with Nate about how they had that development update video and how Nintendo has promised to us that they are going to make Metroid Prime 4 measure up to the quality of the initial release, which is one of the highest rated games of all time. But then also, Metroid Prime Remastered came out. Also, still one of the highest rated games of the year, not just for Switch, but across the industry. It's arguably one of the best looking games, period. So clearly, Retro Studios has one of the most impressive engines for Nintendo Switch. So all those things are good signs, right? Never mind the fact that even though Retro Studios has been on a hiatus in terms of releasing games, this studio, throughout its entire history, has never not released a game that was rated incredibly high. Like, we're always talking about games that rank 9 or 10 up. They rank either 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. All of them. All the Metroid Prime games, all the Donkey Kong games, they've always been killer good. Everything they've touched that's come out has been good. And Prime Remastered just the next example of that, right? So if we're getting all these signs that they've been play tested, we actually have literal evidence, right? It's no longer rumor. We have, it's evidence, but it's maybe not, it doesn't prove 100% that Metroid Prime 4 is basically done. But we have evidence to support the rumor that Prime 4 has been in the playtesting stage for almost a whole year, because we've literally seen developers on their LinkedIn profile say that, who are software testers, right? Play testers, that they've been working with Retro Studios since March. And so the reason it's not total proof is because, I mean, could someone have somehow created a false account? Yeah, it's possible. It's unlikely, at least in the way we saw it. And also, it's possible that they're playtesting on a game that isn't Metroid Prime 4. But we know Retro Studios has been working on Metroid Prime 4. And they also just released Prime Remastered. So, like, what else could they be in the playtesting stage for, right? So it's not 100% proof, but it's definitely a telltale sign that the game is nearing completion and that it's close. And that's another point right there. The fact that they've been polishing the game this long is very interesting. It's very similar to Tears of the Kingdom, because we do know the producer of the Zelda series, Aonuma himself, has told us that Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was done, basically complete, March of 2022. They didn't release it until May of 2023. And because of this latest evidence that's come out this week that supports the initial rumor that the game's been in the playtesting stage for over a year, it's very similar to Tears of the Kingdom, which just sort of suggests that there's a lot of polish and quality assurance going into this game. So it isn't just a rumor from a friend who's connected to the industry. It's a series of things. It's a long history. It's patterns and historical precedents and evidence to suggest that there's high quality going into this game. So, but of course, we don't know for sure until it's out, right? So of course, yeah, nothing's 100%. Captain Doge, Mike Wickon said he has full confidence in current Retro and he still has a lot of friends in there and from before. Interesting point, Captain Doge. Very interesting point. Captain Doge also points out, looked at LinkedIn profile and Twitter and some interviews, there is still a good amount of developers from the OG staff to the Retro Studios. There are still people who work there. That is true. Captain Doge mentions Matt Manchester, Michael Kelbath. Michael Kelbath was one of the higher ups, so that makes sense. And also, Prime producer Kensuke Tanabe. I mean, he makes only good games, so, and it's not just at Retro. But it looks like it is now time to transition over to Nate's stream. So I will be there so we can continue the conversation over there, guys. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a fun stream. There's more coming. But yeah, let's end this stream and then I'll see you guys in a few minutes.